the subscription model, to be very honest with you, I always compare it a little bit to the, I'm going to have new enemies now.
So it is the new year, and I love to talk about new trends, new things we need to be paying attention to, because there is a lot going to change, because marketing and app and messaging all coming together in what my guest calls chatvertising. So get used to that one. There's not advertising, there's chatvertising. And he's serious enough about it to even potentially make it part of his company brand. And he's brave enough or bold enough to call it possibly an app killer. So today we have to find out why. I mean, if you talk about a new trend and you say it's going to kill apps, well, then we have to find out. And Moritz Beck, founder, CEO of Memacon, that's why you're here, because you are a bold, brave man to say that.
I mean, apps are around
Yeah.
for a long time now, and people know what apps are. They know where they get them. Even the link to the app store is very normal. But thinking beyond is very interesting especially for experts, and they really open their ears and say, what are you talking about? So it's a good door opener for us.
You were telling me how your company, everyone else is thinking about, oh, just getting ready for the new year. But no, you have like this overload of people who really get it. Companies, brands like, amongst your messaging projects, which you've done for all sorts of verticals, chatvertising with Samsung, for example, and others. So, I mean, on
But
board.
it's not really about the companies that are on board, and that is the interesting part. It's actually the other way around, because what is actually on board is the users, because the users chat every day and they talk every day. Everybody uses WhatsApp or another messenger app, and everybody is on. So everybody is on the phone chatting. Almost no one is talking anymore through the phone. The latest statistics shows the phone app is used 2.5 minutes per day on average, and the messenger app is used 24 minutes per day on average. Clearly shows that people don't want to talk to each other anymore. They want to chat.
Now, when you tell CMOs about what chatvertising is, it's probably a very different concept, a very different definition.
Chatvertise in one world, it's basically the front door to your brand. It is the possibility that you integrate a call to action, a QR code, a link, whatever format you want to use. Like if you talk about the offline marketing, you would use a QR code. If you talk about online marketing, it's an embedded link or a button. It enables the customer to get into an engagement, into an interaction, into a chat with you or your product. So for example, talking about a very simple use case is one of our first clients is Volvo. What they do is on shows where they display their cars, like on the IAA or different other shows, they just put a QR code next to the car on big screens or even on displays on the tables next to the cars. And what you can do is you can actually chat with the car, so to say, with the configurations of the car, and you can get direct information and directly get information without even talking to a person. Because actually many people on fairs or even outside in the real world, they don't want to talk that much with brands or with sales representatives or whatever. Like they just want to have the information clearly and very easy. So what they do is they scan a QR code and directly start a WhatsApp chat instead of going to a landing page, filling a form, then 2 weeks you don't get an answer because the CRM is not there. No. So you just chat directly with the product or the service, and that is fascinating. Good.
When we met at the App Leaders event in Berlin, we were talking about all the things that change. I think what's changed is the technology, but also the drivers, because you said people don't want to have necessarily a conversation with a brand, but actually now they are.
Well, the wording we use is called conversational engagement. So that's the big word for 2026 for us.
Walk me through the drivers of this new type of conversation.
Yeah, basically it's like if you think about your daily life, it's like you're surrounded by 16 to 25,000 advertisements around you. So you basically, your brain is trained on consuming ads if you want or you don't. But like the whole marketing industry is conditioned on displaying new ads everywhere. And like nobody was thinking like behind that. And nobody was thinking about, okay, you have to put a lot of effort to actually bring people into a POS, like bring them into the store to actually ask questions about a product or even purchase the product. The same goes, by the way, and that's why we call it app killer. The same goes for apps. The trust level you have to build for someone to download an app is tremendous. It's like you have to put a lot of effort, a lot of contact points to actually get the benefit of the app communicated to the benefit for the user, and then they download the app. So the same applies with all this advertisement. So what changes is that people are so overwhelmed with their 3 seconds attention span that they need something more to actually build trust. And just seeing a billboard doesn't build trust. But if I see a billboard I can interact with, the chance that I
Right.
have communication and interaction with the billboard is giving me trust on a new level. And that's the big chance for brands out there to also measure stuff, but also just to, they always talk about brand building, but actually they don't build the brand. They build just an impression. But now with chatting and communication and engagement, you can actually really connect with the brand or the product.
So we have conversational commerce. Some people call it conversational engagement because you don't necessarily have to sell something. You just have to make that connection. It's also going to be another channel for app marketers because when they think about it, they're thinking about their ASO, they're thinking about their on-store and off-store presence. Now I think they're going to have to think about how they're going to use WhatsApp and conversation to get people to even
Or
use the
even
app
go
they
one further
downloaded.
and really think, do we really need an app for that? Like, do we really need an app for a conversational base? No, you don't. There are messaging apps that can solve it. Do you need an application for something to push your CI and to deliver your brand? Like if you're a big fashion brand, of course you need a CI. Of course you need to have this feeling. Of course you have to bring that into the play. But if we're talking about, I don't know, maybe booking a service or just purchasing FMCG product or even a car, maybe you don't need that brand aspect anymore that much. So you really have to think about the goal driver. The
Stand in the way
question
of
to be
that.
asked is, does the company want something to be done, or does the user actually want something to be done? Because if I think about, I want to solve a problem, or I want to have an information on something, and I first have to download an app, and then I have to register, and I have to do a 2FA, and then I have to log in, and so on and so on. Like the time until I'm there, maybe I
Well,
just needed a communication base on just solving my problem, and that's it. So I think the question is, how user centric are we actually at the moment with our application?
yes, it is a conversation, but it's going to evolve with rich messaging, RCS, and all the opportunities we're talking about, delivering newsletters on messaging apps, delivering something that is just beyond just the conversation. And I think that is something that is going to be very exciting for brands, businesses listening in. What can we do with this channel? What are you doing with this channel? I mean, you've helped IKEA, Volvo, little name dropping here, a number of companies at the top of the funnel, build trust, do more. But what is that experience going to look like? Is it going to be much, much more than question answer or transaction?
It always shocks me that responsible marketeers in big corporates are completely blown away by the possibilities. Sometimes I'm sitting in front of someone and saying, really? You haven't thought about that? I mean, like we're talking about communication. So it is always there. It's the base of every corporate. It's the base of every brand. It's the base of every human interaction is communications. Yeah. So the moment the communication stops, we look at the world, we see what happens. And the thing is that if you really want to like build this communication skills, all the messenger apps out there give you all the tools you need. You can use it for newsletters. You can use it to collect an opt-in. You can even do something that app marketers would love, because you can actually decrease the price of the download of the app. You can build completely new
Yeah.
funnels that you never ever thought about. Because what the major benefit of the tech stack of WhatsApp, they are super smart people at Meta and other companies that thought through on how lean can we do it. So the thing is already lean. So you don't have to think about it. You don't have to program anything. You don't have to think about out of the box, nothing. You just have to use what is there. And what is there is you can have a connection to the company as a user and vice versa. So you just have to think about inbound and outbound, and that's the only thing you have to think about. And if we talk about top funnel, the inbound is always something like lead generation, for example, we do for many companies. They use WhatsApp as a lead generation funnel with AI, without AI, with rule-based automations, without automations, even with real people sitting behind it. We have a customer service centers behind it. We do license them and train them. Like everything is there because the shift is there. But once they're in, you can then use like all kind of media to actually entertain them. And it doesn't matter if it's WhatsApp or if it's even RCS, which probably most of the people haven't heard yet. Good old MMS that we all remember. And then the MMS died for like, I don't know, 15, 20 years. And now it's RCS is basically the Jesus of MMS, so to say. It's the rebirth of MMS. And now it's back there. And you can do everything without even installing an app. You can send videos, you can send swipeable content, you can send blog articles, you can send rich content like even sound files. For example, with Sony together, we worked on a big project where they sent audio messages over 10 days from a play. Yeah? So you could listen to the play for 10 days. So there's no limits anymore if you just think about communications. And yeah, that's pretty amazing.
What took so long? Because we've had these pieces. Is it just simply now understanding, or maybe the realization that, guess what, the consumer is in control? It's not about push, it's about pull.
The main thing why it wasn't there yet is because companies still think company driven and they don't, or corporate driven, they don't think user driven. And for example, what we do for IKEA is you can apply completely via WhatsApp for your dream job. So you don't even have to go to a landing page. You don't have to put any details into a form, nothing. You just open WhatsApp and your whole journey to getting a job, even like if the job is not there, like 3 months later, you get a push notification via WhatsApp saying, hey, your dream job is available. You want to apply? Yes or no? And because you gave all the data in the flow already, you just say yes or no. And if you click yes, then all the process is done. And then the old systems of IKEA will do their HR job. But that is really, really, really like intrinsic motivation of IKEA, bringing the customer into the center. And why it took so long that messenger apps actually came there is because they had to be the standard first. WhatsApp has a penetration of 95% in the European market. They had to get there first, but now everybody knows it, everybody uses it, and who's not using WhatsApp is using any other app. So everybody has. I mean, if you don't have a phone or like a very old phone, okay, fair enough, then you don't. But that's the absolute edge case. So the majority of people do have this communication tool, and we're talking about like Germany and Austria and Switzerland. If you go to Asia or to MENA or even in the US, the app, like the communication goes through messenger apps. It's completely normal. Why wasn't it there before? Is because it's downloading or even going to a branded area like a website, downloading an app, and so on. Like all of this touch points, you have to build it first. There's also a lot of crap in the market. I think messaging wasn't loud enough because the potential wasn't seen yet. People really talk about like using it as a platform, as a communication platform. We call it conversational engagement. So the conversational engagement area starts now because also people realize, if just a little excerpt, if you think about customer service, you can have one person on the phone, or at the same time, the same agent can serve 10 people on WhatsApp. And you know what then happens? We have one company where we just got the data from last week. Their net promoter score went up on like 60 or 70% to the year before, because 80% of the requests coming to that brand were fully automated and 20% were given to people, and people were more happy because they actually did something useful and not the same yada yada they did every day in the last 10 years. So they were more happy to actually solve problems because people like solving problems. The users were so happy because they could chat with them and say, look, they've done it in 5 minutes.
That's a different way of framing it. We're talking about messaging as company to consumer, but when you're talking about IKEA using it to basically recruit, you can imagine that this is going to be something that, yes, it's very good for building trust with the consumer, solving problems, but it's going to
Yeah,
change the
absolutely.
organization.
We have one client from Norway, and they have people repairing wind turbines on the North Sea. You have to train those people regularly on new safety updates, on new compliance rules, on new everything. And normally you have to send someone there. They have to send the whole helicopter back to the mainland and train the people there. So instead of that, we actually use WhatsApp,
Right.
take the training content and chunk it into pieces of little quizzes. So every morning they get a little WhatsApp quiz, and after 30 days, they collect points every day. And after 30 days, they have enough points to actually get the certificate. And what we found out is that this, because of what we said at the beginning, the attention span is underneath like 3 seconds. So what actually turned out is that those people after 30
Right.
days have more knowledge about what they've been trained on than if they would sit 3 hours in a boring training.
So between the gamification and understanding that not just customers, yes, but I've written books about this. Guess what? Millennials, digital natives, they expect to work with companies that work in that way. They go to companies that can do that. They go to universities that can do that because there's just no patience with the way things were before. The other advantage, what is the value of sending users to WhatsApp? Okay, I create brand trust, but no. Money value. CPIs can drop. You told me a story in Berlin from, say, the 5 to 6 euro range to 1 to 2. That is dramatic. Tell me how that's possible, or is that just like the odd outlier?
No, actually, we see it in a pattern, because what you normally do as a marketer is you run a campaign, and then you have an interaction point on somewhere. Let's say we run an offline ad, out of home ad somewhere, or even in a magazine. That's the easiest example. So you run an ad in a magazine, you pay a lot of money for that, like a lot, and you basically pay for visibility, for reach, or not even, for impressions. So you just put an interaction in that magazine. For example, let's say that's a bag, and then you can scan the QR code that is next to the bag, and then you can chat with the product. And what you normally do is, as a CMO, you normally send people from that advertisement with a QR code to a landing page. The conversion rate on that kind of landing page is like 1 to 2% maximum. So instead of that, we send the people with the QR code directly into a pre-trained AI WhatsApp chatbot, where you as a company, as the CMO, at the first contact, the user contacts you via WhatsApp. You have the phone number and you have the name of the person. So you have highly, highly valuable data of that person with the marketing consent, because the contact person contacted you as the first touch point. It's not the other way around. So you don't need a double opt-in. So the person contacts you, and then you can nurture this person, and then you can still send them to a landing page at the end. But the difference is you have the data. We did with the several customers already is that we put the first interaction point towards the WhatsApp chatbot, and then we actually gave them 5 to 7 interactions with the brand or with the product. And only then, after we gained some trust through communications, we then told them, hey, by the way, if you want to have the full experience, you can download the app that we have for it, because there's another benefit for you inside of the app. It's just a communication. It's just a chat. And then, like, bringing enough value to the customer to make it interesting for the customer to actually download the app is way easier than going through a landing page with trust elements and with scrolling and with maybe it's not perfectly optimized responsively. And the point is, chatting them into the download of the app is way, way easier than, doing a good landing page. And that then results in the way cheaper conversion rates from WhatsApp to the app download.
We're at that time of the year where everyone wants to start over. I'm one of these people, right? Start over fresh, do something different. I was looking at some, it's like, oh, you can change your style, you can change your look, you can change your weight, you can do all sorts of things. Are you seeing that subscription apps are picking up on this?
The subscription model, to be very honest with you, I always compare it a little bit to the, I'm going to have new enemies now. I always compare it a little bit to the fitness studio business model, because it mainly runs on 70% of the people never show up. And that's our actually revenue and our profits on it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not a really good business model. But I mean, it works, but it's like a little bit unethical. Yeah.
That's why I've never gone back. That's why I was looking at the app because
Yeah. And the
center
time
is
is,
out. Pilates,
and the time, for
the
me, the
app is
time is
in.
over
Yeah,
of like,
smart.
yeah, put your credit card behind it. We won't charge anything. But if you forget it, we will. Yeah. Let's say there's a fitness tracker, and for 14 days, you just
Wow.
send them a WhatsApp push notification every morning and say, hey, did you go for a run? Yes or no? And if that's your only value, okay, maybe that's not enough. But if you then use this and say, okay, you have a 24-hour window where you can actually ask the person through an AI chatbot more questions about their behavior. And after 14 days, you say, hey, we tracked you and your interactions for 14 days. And now we have a beautiful report for you. But then you have to download the
Yeah.
app to get the report. Hey, then it's a real benefit change. And then I'm willing to give my credit card details because I know that there's something that is actually valuable. So I think that's going to have
Yeah.
a massive impact into the subscription model.
What about the marketers who understand this and they understand that it builds trust at the top of the funnel? Let's look at the rest of the journey and what you would tell marketers about.
The chances are tremendous. So for example, Aldi, they already started with us
Yeah.
7 years ago, where WhatsApp and automations and everything was like big fugazi. Nobody knew anything about it. They already had Christmas calendars with us. Yeah, we had over 30,000 people. If the listeners are familiar with Christmas calendars, you get like a door every day, and behind the door there's some surprise or whatever. So from 1st until 24th of
Yeah.
December, you do that. So what we did is we had special offers, we had ruffles, come to the POS and get the free item and whatever content we had. But the very interesting part talking about the mid funnel was that people subscribed to that service, and 95% of the people stayed in the service until the 24th. So from that 30,000 people, 95% of them saw an Aldi branding, an Aldi communication. So you had to be in it. And people, imagine 95% really kept going until 24 days. To the CMO of Aldi at that time, as I told him, like, it's basically like having an Aldi on the way to work and back. So you have like, but on your phone. So it's way more personal. It's in your absolute personal space. So the visibility for the brand was crazy good. If you are smart enough, and we have a lot of smart customers now that use it in their mid-funnel, like for newsletters, for hyper-personalization, where you can use audio messages to stick it together with the first name. There's enough AI solutions now to really like only send stuff to people that is really relevant for them. Like, don't send the whole catalog. Ask them in the beginning if they like bikes or they like ovens. And if they only like bikes, then just send them the bike content, and that's it.
That hyper-personalization used to be something for the major brands, the big brands. And now you're talking about something where I'm imagining more small and mid-sized companies can also get in on the action.
Absolutely. You know why this is actually able to be like, if, you can even do it as a small brand now, and that it only has one reason. And the reason is that you don't need mega data centers to make prediction about someone liking this. Yeah, it's just communication.
Exactly.
Simply by getting the users directly information, you can change the whole journey that person has in the marketing field. WhatsApp, you had to opt in through the WhatsApp process. So it was always scan the code, open WhatsApp, send the message, and then you're in. But since they actually changed the policy on that, for example, we have a client that uses our technology for surveys. Nowadays, they use this quick research, or quick journeys, they call them. And what they do is they send a WhatsApp message proactively to existing users, because in their process, they already collected the opt-in while someone purchased it. So the user just gets a WhatsApp saying, hey, because it's all verified and has a hook and like it's an official WhatsApp from that brand. They send the push notification through WhatsApp, and then they just have 3 questions, and the questions are answered with buttons. Then we at Memacon, we built something on the last question. After the third one, we ask one more question where we say, now, please, if you want to, you're done with the survey, but if you want to, you can just share something in an open text. You can send it via voice message. You can send it via text. You can even record a video if you want, whatever. But what we do is we collect all the data. And because we live in the time of AI, we can completely anonymize it, send it into a rack system and say, here's 10,000 answers, free text answers. give me the 10 biggest problems. Give me the 10 nicest things people said. And the AI will take the data and give you that for your next presentation, for your next dashboard. And then there's something on top you can do because you built that RAG system already to get the data out. We can also give the management and the board or the marketing team or whoever wants to work with that, we can actually connect that RAG system with a WhatsApp channel so that that CMO can chat with the data and ask questions to the data via WhatsApp. You couldn't do that before. Now you can.
You do a lot of experimentation. Testing Meta's click to WhatsApp ads. What's that look like? And
Yeah,
what have
that's
you learned
actually
from that?
also
What can you
something
share?
absolutely wild. You basically, what you break is all the funnels that you know from your marketing education. Just use click to WhatsApp ads, which completely kill the funnel because you are directly into it. Of course, inside of WhatsApp, you have the same funnel then again. But what you do to get an interaction with the user is you run ads on Meta platforms like on Instagram or on Facebook. And because Meta is all connected to WhatsApp, they can check if someone receives or if someone gets an ad displayed, a WhatsApp ad displayed. Of course, Meta first checks if the user has WhatsApp on the phone. So if they have WhatsApp on the phone, they get displayed those apps. And instead of sending them into a landing page from that little button on the down right side where it says learn more or register now, or it's like all the call to actions, don't send them to a landing page anymore. You actually send them directly into WhatsApp. So if the user clicks on that on Instagram, immediately WhatsApp opens and then you can have a conversation about that. That's one way to use it. For example, Instagram DMs or Facebook DMs. That's even more insane because brands can now post stories or reels on Instagram or even a normal picture post, and they can set up a chatbot that is listening to the comments that are written underneath that post. And if you say in the post, for example, you sell a bag, and if you say in the post, comment great bag underneath, and then you get a free sample, then the chatbot is listening to that keyword, and then it can actually interact on the keyword. So it's again hyper-personalized because the person has a data set behind it and you can use that data set. I recently subscribed to an email funnel and I was purchasing alcohol-free champagne. And I ended up getting 2 emails a day. And I was like, guys, like that cannot work. Like no way that can work. And I was like, okay, this is very, very annoying. And the same day I registered for the WhatsApp newsletter of one telecommunication vendor. And it was so lean. It was so beautiful and lean because they asked me who I am. They asked me what I need, like my demand. They didn't offer me anything in the first contact, nothing. They just said, hey, super cool, you're here. Maybe if we have an offer for you, da 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 da. That's it. Then 5 days later, they asked me if I want to share, in a very nice way, if I want to share what phone I actually use at the moment. So they didn't ask me for like in a penetration way or whatever. They didn't say like, here, buy it. They didn't, no. They just asked me a question. Just like, and I'm pretty sure next week I'm going to get a message saying, hey, by the way, because you're using that phone, we actually have a cool, interesting feature for that phone or a gadget or whatever. Okay. But I'm fine. I'm very happy because this is actually relevant for me.
It's relevant. It's going to be a great time for you, Moritz. We're going to rethink recency, frequency, right? I mean, we had these rules for push notifications and they were, and we're still trying to figure them out, actually. Now messaging, it can replace that or augment it. You can have all channels at the end of the day, but there's going to be different.
Well, imagine why the open rate of WhatsApp newsletters are beyond 90% and more. Because the channel is still attractive, because I only get stuff that I really want. Because on WhatsApp, there's a major difference to an email newsletter because I don't have to scroll down and look in the buy print, like in the buy print to find the unsubscribe button. No, I just write stop, just STOP, and that's it. And then it's an international law for all the technical firms that work with WhatsApp API. They have to provide that function. So if I don't want to have it anymore, just write stop and that's it. With all the WhatsApp brands that we are working together, we always tell them like, look, don't waste that opportunity you have here. Yes, it's 90% open rate, but don't send just random stuff. Ask the people what they want and then send them a lot of stuff.
Talk about how it's going to rewrite the rules of engagement, that recency, frequency, monetary, RFM, it was the big deal, or ARG. if you want to go to that model. So gonna be redefining frameworks. What about the metrics? What will be the metric that you need to look at to find out, yes, messaging is working, and a reason to maybe change their roadmap if they want to get more that the app becomes less of a hub and more of like a design layer? What metrics
Well,
should marketers
the
be looking
crazy
at?
good thing is that we call every interaction a so-called node. So every node gives us information. It's a little bit like in the app when you go to the different
Right.
screens, but on messaging, it's the nodes that give you the information. So the first metric definitely is the conversion rate from your call to like click to WhatsApp ads, or from your website, or from your landing page, or even from your email footer, whatever. You can track all of that, like the how many people actually convert into the WhatsApp channel. That's the first thing, or the WhatsApp chat, not the channel, WhatsApp chat. So that's the first thing. Then once they're in, the first thing we always do is, because the customer will write, in 99% of the cases, the customer will contact you as a corporate or you as a brand. We use that first interaction to really build something where they, for example, we call it the onboarding phase. So in the onboarding phase, you ask questions, not too many, but not too less. You try to do a good hyper-personalization standard there, and you try to get them through a different depth. Measure how your onboarding flow actually goes well. Like, how deep do the people actually interact with you? Because if you don't have a good onboarding and you just say, hi, great, you're here, here's our first newsletter, people, like, you're wasting a big chance there. So once that's done, you go to the third metrics, and that is of obviously the opening rates of your WhatsApp newsletters. If it's below 90%, you're doing something wrong. Then give us a call. We do something better. Then the second measurement is the click rates. So if you are below 50% click rate, you're doing something wrong. All the email marketing gurus, they all say the major thing is the subject line. Like, the subject line is the most important. It's the same with WhatsApp. So you do have a subject line, but the subject line here is not inside of an app that you have to open, like the email app. The subject line here is actually the on-screen pop-up. And you have to think a little bit about how big of a screen your clients have. You can ask the people, what phone are you using? It's not a crime to ask. If your target group mainly uses iPhones with big screens, it's a different game than when they use Android phones with smaller screens. So you have to think a little bit about, how do I attract a message, and do I have to bring all the information into one message? Or maybe I can just use one smart opening message, like a clickbait or something, then bring the rest into my chats, because I can just send one, let them react with a button, and then I can build a whole funnel behind it. I can even send a survey just with one message, make it interesting, win an iPhone or win a TV or something. Copywriters, they will never die. This job will never die, because now we need them for something completely different than writing headlines on landing pages. AI can't get rid of them. Like, it's impossible, because it's such a great value that you have to a company if you really understand the product and the services. And now you can use it on this hyper-personalization funnels. Whew, crazy, like really, really good. The next thing you should measure is the quality, but also the quantity of data that you can actually send to your CRM and synchronize with your CRM. For example, one customer will register through WhatsApp. They answer a few questions, but the phone number is their prior identifier. So what we do is we sync this data set with the existing CRM. We check if there's data available about that customer already that is connected to the ERP. And if there's data, we actually send some of the data back into our WhatsApp system and then use this for hyper-personalization. You don't have to ask the user, have you ever purchased something with us? You can actually just get the information out of the CRM and integrate it into the whole system. And then you can make a different funnel for that person, because you already know that he or she is a customer already.
And that's what we want, right? As consumers, I'm always frustrated thinking, you have all my data. You know what I've been doing for a while.
Yeah.
Why are you even asking me this? Don't you know me? Don't you know me? And I was reading an article that was very interesting, that what we won't shift away from, what's going to become the new stickiness, is actually going to be context. It has context about me. I don't need to teach it again. And that's going to be valuable. It's why we're not going to necessarily always switch from one AI tool to the next, because we've been using it for a while. We've been training it for a while. We've been prompting it for a while. We're sort of stuck there, but in a good way. It's that familiarity. And when I think about it, we'll be doing new rules around the funnels. And I think you'll be having a lot more work, because not for copy editing. I'm thinking of your work as an author, because again, you are also the author of chatbots. So when it comes to turning messaging into meaningful business, yes, you're the one we need to go to, but you
A
probably are
sequel?
thinking about a sequel, are you?
Absolutely. Right now,
Or another
using the
company?
time
Or-
between the year to finish the next one. It's going to be called
Oh,
Conversational Engagement. And
oh,
that's like the next step from chatbots to
excellent.
what we talked about today, and how corporates have to adjust to the needs of the market, and how to have a strategy, how to have a conversational strategy for your company. That's the base of that book.
It's great that it's actually coming around, because I've been writing about conversational commerce and engagement. I'd like to say it feels like a decade.
People do understand now what we were talking about the last 7 years. So the cake is getting bigger.
We get so far into the channels and the funnel that I think we forget about the flow, and the flow will always be the conversation. App marketers are seeing that. It is saturated. We are just not downloading the apps we did before. The more scams, the more phishing, the more, we have dark
Yep.
patterns now. It sounds pretty diabolical out there in the app landscape. So it's going to take a lot to get people to trust, but they will converse, they will message with the
Absolutely.
companies that they are.
If I want to purchase a Ferrari, I want to do a test ride first. So I can't do a test ride just by putting my credit card somewhere and trusting, yeah, it will be fine. No, I want to play with the brand. I want to know the brand. A brand is something to explore. And every CMO tells me, explore my brand, explore my brand. Yeah, but I can't, because I have to have
Well,
like a ton of trust first. And why don't I make it easier as a CMO for a user to just get to know me a little bit in an environment that I already know, because I use it every day.
yeah, in a trustworthy environment. That's what makes the difference.
Yep.
I want to wrap up in a moment, Moritz, but I'm also with the fact that, we were brought together by Vonage, and they are great people. Is there something I should be asking? So maybe when I'm saying, if listeners remember one thing about this episode, what's an experiment do you want them to run?
I think
Putting
the
them
most
once. What do you
interesting
think would
element
work?
for us, why we actually work with Vonage, is the because you mentioned flow building. Maybe you say something like, it sounds so technical, it sounds so complicated, is it that complicated? Because then I can refer to that Vonage actually just launched a new flow builder that makes it so easy for brands.
We were talking about channels, and we were talking about technology. You were talking about chatbots and chatvertising before it was cool. But now that we have everyone's attention, everyone's getting excited. I'm certainly excited. Then the next question becomes, well, if we're going to start thinking about the flow and not thinking so much about the funnel, isn't that challenging? What does it take to build flows? Is that going to be the next challenge?
This tech stuff has to develop as well, because it's kind of 7 years ago was like this Aldi project I was referring to. It was a nightmare to program, because everything had to be handy. Everything had to be done by hand. We had a team of 30 developers sitting here day and night for 24 days. It was a nightmare. It was a mega success, but it was also a nightmare.
So the fact that you can build a flow, which I imagine is sort of like just getting the user, the consumer, from step to step to step, you have an idea what that path needs to look like, but you need to build it. And now it's more probably a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more drag and drop, with your consulting, of course, as a guide, and the guardrails, if we're
100%.
talking about appropriate
And it's
messaging.
not only that, but also everything that you have from the old world obviously is built into this as well. So talking about A/B testing, an A/B test for a landing page takes ages. You need a web designer, you need this, you need that. Like, it takes so much time. In a flow builder, it takes you maybe 15 minutes and you have it done. So you run an A/B test, you send the traffic through it. You can even say, okay, let's do even a weighted A/B test. So you can say 80% runs through the normal flow that I have, and 20% goes into the new idea I had this morning. So at the end of the day, if you have enough traffic, of course, but at the end
Oh,
of the day, you say, oh, that was an interesting test today. So why don't we run it the other way around tomorrow because it was more successful?
yeah, but that's fascinating as well, because that's the one thing that marketers are missing so often is the ability to change things. I'm even talking to subscription companies. It's like, just having the pricing different and experimenting there, because there's a lot to experiment with, and to be able to do that. And as you said, maybe wake up and say, oh, let's do a different
Yep.
type of pricing or a different type of package. You you absolutely could. And faster than remaking the app, putting it through the app store, because it has to get through approvals. You can't just
Yeah,
say it's a different
100%.
type of app overnight. So it speeds everything up. So everything's going to get faster and more exciting in the industry. What about for yourself, Moritz? I mean, it's going to be an insane amount of work, I think, because companies are getting on board, and especially in certain regions
Yeah,
such as
absolutely.
MENA, where you're
It's
based as
it's
well.
especially in MENA, in the MENA market, it's WhatsApp is everything. You do everything through
Mhm.
that. Even stuff that in Germany people would be like, "What? No, you cannot." Yeah, yeah, you can because it's communication. Like it does work and
Well,
it's
MENA
perfectly
has
fine and it's
hard.
safe and people do work with it. But
Mhm.
there are actually three versions of WhatsApp. There's the private version, there's then the WhatsApp Business app, and there's WhatsApp Business API, which everything that we do runs on. But most of the companies that use WhatsApp in the MENA region actually use the WhatsApp Business solution and not the WhatsApp Business API solution. So there's still a lot to discover for them and a lot of automation because right now there are farms of companies that that have phones in their hand and that they scale through buying another phone and putting another phone number into the space, which they could all automate. I really want to show companies and people how this world can look like for having a way better
Mhm.
user experience for brands. But in
Okay.
North America, like SMS was never be paid. Yeah, it was always since the pager was
Well,
there, it was always for free. So there was no benefit for me to change to WhatsApp. Now, with all the rich media and all the effort that Meta puts into it, and I mean the user numbers are growing crazy in the US. Even there, also through international relations, people do have WhatsApp on their phones slowly more and more. So by the sheer size of the market. There's one big benefit in the US market or in the North American market mainly is that automations are like in the base of the spirit of a company there because it's driven by automations and uh,
mm,
so it's very API
yeah.
enabled. Everything has an API. You can always like connect it. And meanwhile, in Europe, you have systems from 1980 where there wasn't even an API. So you have to export everything into CSV or into Excel or whatever, and like have to find workarounds. While in the North, in the US, it's very standard to have all of that, and sort of the speed to implement something is way faster than in Europe. Yeah. So I see a big market there as well.
This is going to be absolutely massive, not just chatvertising, but everything we're talking about across the organization to the consumers, personalization. I mean, it's a new way of looking at things, a new way of connecting. What would you suggest is one experiment that they should be running in the next, say, 30 days to get an idea
Set
of
up
what
a
this can
WhatsApp
offer?
newsletter. If you don't want to do it to a major like to your major
Okay.
audience or whatever, then do a little VIP group, do a WhatsApp VIP group, and just test it. Test it. Get a
Okay.
POC out. It's like, seriously like if you call us if you want and you don't have bottlenecks inside of your corporation, we can be online in less than 24 hours. You need a
Wow.
phone number, you need a good software, we can consult you on that, and we can put a good onboarding on space. And then you have a 1,000 people WhatsApp newsletter where you can test the first experience. And it's like, I don't want to share here what it costs, but you're going to be mind blown in a very positive way compared to your traditional channels. It's utter cheap if you
Wow.
compare.
Wow. Now that is an offer. And I'm just thinking it's such a good idea to do it with a limited number at first, because that turns it around and you can say, this is just for like our VIP customers. This is something special, because it's always the question, how do we get customers motivated? And it's always, well, give them something special, right? And this would be a special type of experience. So it's good for them, good for the
Yeah.
company, definitely good for you. You're selling it more. Makes me wish I had a list. I could do one myself. Thank you so much for coming back. It was great to meet you in Berlin, and this encore,
Thank you
all
for
the
this
more
great
worth it. Thanks.
opportunity.